All right, today's 5-minute coaching is perfect for when you're having a bad day. So this would be a great email to put a little star next to that you can come back to, put it in another folder. When you're having a bad day, I want to teach you how to have a less bad day. So we tend to think that our emotions just kind of like reset every day, which is why we say something like, I'm just having a bad day, or I don't feel like doing that today, or I feel really good today. We really chunk our days by emotions. Like today was a good day, today was a bad day. But I want you to know that bad emotions or negative emotions, they don't have to last all day. They could just last like 5 minutes. You don't have to have a bad day if you're having a bad morning. But what for sure will continue a bad day is believing the thought, I'm having a bad day. So that's a side note. Here's how I'm going to help you to have a better day when you're having a bad day. So this morning, I had a lot of leftover emotions actually from last night. My husband gave me this paint by number thing of my dad. I just finished it last night, but it brings up a lot of like really difficult emotions for me. And I didn't process any of them really last night. I wrote a little bit, but I went to bed with kind of this pit in my stomach. And I noticed when I woke up this morning that I wasn't feeling that great, which just told me that I had some leftover emotions from yesterday. Normally, I am able to kind of jump into the mood that I want to have. I can be happy, I can be chipper. And the first thing I want you to know is that if you're having negative emotions, it's actually not a problem. And that's really going to help us when we go to solve for these negative emotions. So what I did was I dropped my kids off at school. I went back home and I just sat down and I decided that I was going to process these negative emotions. And here's how I do it. Instead of hiding from that emotion, instead of pulling up my phone and beginning to scroll Instagram, instead what I did do and what I want you to try to do is to put down the phone, put down the food, and just sit for a minute in the negative feeling. Now, your attitude toward the negative feeling is going to completely change how you experience the negative feeling. Okay. I want you to imagine that the negative feeling is like a little egg and it's like in your chest. And maybe if it's negative, it's like a little bit gray. It's a little bit maybe twisty and shadowy and like just kind of like does not feel good. Right now, we can layer emotions, and that's what we do all the time. So we have this negative emotion. We notice the negative emotion, and then we have thoughts. We surround this egg with something else. This is the part that we can choose. I didn't choose if I was feeling negative this morning. That's not always something that you can really control, especially because your subconscious is always processing things. So you might be feeling bad and not realize why you're feeling bad. It might be something just like deep inside of you that's been triggered. It might be a hormonal thing. It could be any number of things. But here are the thoughts that I want you to surround your negative emotion with. And you're just going to surround it with these thoughts by just saying them out loud or in your head to yourself. Negative feeling, sorrow, grief, pain, whatever it is, I love you. It's okay that you're here. You don't have to go away. There's no amount of time that would be too much for you to stay. And this is honestly what you have to tell yourself. I know that sounds really scary because you think if I allow myself to feel sad forever, I will feel sad forever. But it's not the truth. The sadness will only stay when we're resisting feeling the emotion. So instead of resisting it, we're going to lean into it. We're going to allow ourselves to actually feel really sad in this moment, which means we might cry. I got a little bit teary-eyed this morning when I was processing this emotion. It might just feel like a really painful feeling in your chest. Now, whatever happens as you're talking to this feeling, I just want you to continue to remind it, however you're feeling, I'm totally up for it. You're completely welcome to feel however you want to feel. And you just let that feeling exist, however it's going to exist. It's not a problem for you to be a human that experiences negative emotions. Now, here's the cool part. After I was done processing this feeling, it didn't completely go away. But where it was taking up like 90% of my energy, or maybe like 80, 75, that's like a lot of energy for that emotion to take up. It went down to like 20 or 30%. And now as I've gone throughout the day, it's been at like 5%. And if I give it a little more attention, it might bump up a little bit, but it's never going to get back up to that 80% mark because I already kind of flushed it through. The way that we flush an emotion and let it go is by really zooming in on it and choosing to wrap up that negative emotion with a positive emotion, like love, like kindness. You're allowed to be nice to yourself when you're not feeling good. It's way faster than just like trying to get through that emotion. You're going to feel bad all day long if you don't let yourself feel bad for 5 minutes. So you let yourself feel bad for 5 minutes. You tell yourself, this is totally fine. Like, I'm okay feeling negative emotions. Like, and whatever the situation is, make sure that you're not judging like, well, I really shouldn't feel that bad. No, you totally should. Of course you should, because you are feeling that bad. So let yourself feel that bad. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling feelings. You're just a human having a human experience. So I wanted to offer that to you today because if you're having a bad day, I want you to be able to feel better, but also because all the parts of you deserve to feel loved. There's nothing actually wrong with you when you're having a negative experience. This is what everybody needs to know. And if we allow ourselves to have those negative experiences, we can actually very quickly get into a more positive experience. So I didn't go from sad to happy by just being like, okay, sadness, you can be there. I went from sad to like, okay, like when I was processing the sad and I was trying to notice how it was feeling, felt like my shoulders were something. I just felt incredibly heavy. The more I leaned into it, the heavier it got. But it wasn't a problem. It was totally fine for me to feel that way. And after about maybe 2 minutes or less, it perked back up again because I let that energy be whatever it was going to be. I promise this is the fastest and best way to get rid of your negative emotions is to let them be there. Then you can move on to the feelings you actually want to feel. All right. I hope that was really helpful today, and I will see you tomorrow.